Welcome to the Voice of San Diego at home, actually at work this time. I'm Scott Lewis. I'm the CEO and editor-in-chief at Voice of San Diego. We are your nonprofit news source, digging into and trying to explain all of what's going on in San Diego with everything all the crises, trust in institutions, the economic crisis, and of course, the public health crisis. So I'm coming at you from my office. I can't work at home. We're gonna have to convert my office or something into or my garage or something into a workspace because it's gotten to be a little bit rough to get stuff done. But I came in. I noticed that they were giving away these at our building now. These things so that we can like open doors without touching things. Like it doesn't seem that helpful right now. I don't know how if that's gonna really change our lives. There's so much like performative hygiene out there right now of like they could probably redo the ventilation, for example. That's probably another investment they might be able to make things better and healthier in this building. But yeah, this is my office. So I have a view right over there of, let's see if I can do this, of that's the 101 Ash Street property. We're going to talk about that a little later. We're going to get into why that's a political issue or not in the city of San Diego. Got some pictures of that guy. Let's see, right there is the guy I helped start Voice San Diego with. We were co-editors for a long time. Those are the fish. I've been trying to catch a lot of fish lately, and I like to keep track of what kinds there are. Yeah, this is where I work. Usually, it's crazy how empty that is, how easy it is to find parking, all that stuff. I guess we'll never get used to this. This is where I started doing those live streams, though, at the very beginning when everybody was just totally freaked out, and I just wanted to make sure that I had somebody to talk to through it, and so I talked to you. Let's get into some of the news I wanted to talk about. We wanted to lead today with the big news. The Teachers Union of the San Diego Unified School District, that's the San Diego Education Association. They represent teachers and other educators in the San Diego Unified School District. San Diego Unified is the second biggest school district in the state of California, and of course, the biggest in San Diego. And so everybody watches them. Our Will Huntsberry did a great story this week. We talked about a few days ago about how San Diego Unified and LA Unified have sort of banded together to really define education in San Diego or in California and policy there. And so what they do matters. And this week, they came up with a deal with their teachers union for how remote learning should work. Now, these are mostly just the expectations and what's allowed and stuff like that, not necessarily the actual plan, the software, that sort of thing. That's what the district's going to come up with. They have a meeting August 10th where a lot of that will come clear. My staff said, I got to make sure I have guests for these shows coming up that makes a better show. We've got a bunch of guests coming up in the next few weeks. This is just me today going through some of these news stories. So let's get right into that. So what do I mean by the contract? So the teachers union and the school district have an existing contract. But this whole thing, of course, changes everything. Just like baseball, it got disrupted and they needed to have negotiations. Well, the teachers union and the school district, this whole situation's got disrupted. They need to have negotiations to decide how to handle it. And so this is what they've come up with. So this is why they needed to have those negotiations. And I just want to take it from them. This is San Diego's Education Association, Terry Ang and Keisha Barden talking about uh, the negotiation process and why they needed to go through a negotiation at all. They were posted this on their website, and so I watched the video of what they were updating their members about.
We're fortunate because we do get to bargain all of this. If we didn't, we would still be operating on our regular contract and we would be teaching online 6 hours and 35 minutes. And none of us feel that that's appropriate for this situation. But that's what our contract has us doing. So we have to come up with an agreement that will allow us to do our best job that we can in this crisis teaching make the district also happy, appease parents. There's a lot of elements here. And so we do hope that you'll understand that the work that the bargaining team is doing is really hard. And that when we get an agreement, while it may not be everything you wanted, we do hope that you'll take it into consideration to pass it, because we do need to move forward in all of this.
So that was the lead negotiators for the teachers union and why they said they needed to go at and make a new deal. And this is the deal that they made, and they're going to talk about now. They wanted to be clear. They sent a statement to me today that they wanted to be clear that they are that they have not necessarily approved the deal. San Diego Education Association has reached a tentative agreement with SD Unified on online learning. It will be used by the district to finalize their learning plan, which will be released August 10th. This tentative agreement still has to be ratified by our members. So, what is in that agreement? Will they ratify it? I'm sure they probably will. But what is in that agreement? Well, I read the whole thing. The main part that sticks out, and Keisha Borden said she would come on the show maybe next week or something. And they've got they're trying to talk to members right now about making sure they can get this passed. I understand. So here is what they came up with mainly. One, basically, they said 360 minutes of instruction they needed to provide for a day. And here's how they broke it down. There's 180 minutes of teaching that shall include live, online, whole group, and small group instruction. Basically, they're saying for 180 minutes, they're going to every day be expected to work with students in these live settings, online, remote. And so 180 minutes, that doesn't mean they're all together with the whole class for 180 minutes or 3 hours. That means that they're going to have to decide, each educator is going to have to decide, do they do an hour with the whole class and then break into different ones with the smaller groups. So that's the way I understand that part. The division of instructional time between the whole group and the small group instruction shall be determined by the needs of the students, so the educator will make that decision. All right. Again, if you guys are educators out there, have thoughts, if you're a teacher, if you're a parent, if you're a student, if you're an administrator, if you're another district, whatever, want to hear from you. If I can't answer your question, I'll put it in the question factory and see what we can figure out. I got people who can help me do that. I want to hear from you. What do you feel about all these plans? What do you wish happened? I can rant later about some things. All right. The second part was this small group. Now, I'm not sure how this differentiates from the first one said 180 minutes, and then part of that is in small group. This one says the remaining 60 minutes of teaching shall be dedicated to additional small group instruction, conferring with students, or teacher initiated. I think this is more like informal, like you're going to work directly with a student or a couple students to get a couple things done, maybe consult with them. I'm not quite sure what that exactly means. Would love to hear from you and clarify it. Again, we've invited the teachers union to come talk about it. They're still trying to get some other things done before they want to come and discuss it. And then the last part, the remainder of the workday shall be flex time and preparation time while students engage in 120 minutes of asynchronous learning, AKA you're on your own. And we're going to be preparing some stuff. One of the things that sort of drove me nuts about, look, I think this is probably a pretty good outline compared to what I've seen across the country. I'm not sure. There's a few things I heard from Bill Ponder. Yeah, I think he might be watching the show. He watches it a lot. He ran for school board. He made a point like, look, there's nothing in this contract about performance expectations, about evaluation, about metrics, about goals for students, about how we're going to make sure this is actually working. Great point. Hopefully that comes up in some of these discussions about the actual plan. But I think as far as like outlining minimum requirements, this is one of the better ones I have seen so far in traditional public school settings. And so I think that, but I do think there was something weird that the San Diego Unified put out a press release and they said, um, uh, they said, "Yeah, this is great." And let me actually get the exact wording they used. It was pretty good. Um, it was it said it said for students, the learning experience will feel similar in many ways to a traditional school year. I just want to read that again. For students, the learning experience will feel similar in many ways to a traditional school year. Let's just be absolutely 100% clear about something. In no way, in not one single way, in zero ways will this feel similar to a traditional school year. Okay, let's now first a couple points on this. First, I understand like we're dealing with a pandemic, it's bad, it's hard. So, I'm not saying you should try to strive to make this feel similar without going back to class. That's hard, understand. But I also think it's a little strange to be making an argument that this feels similar or it's going to feel, like the same thing. It feels like they're gaslighting us. Like they're just like saying, "Oh no, this is basically what we do with your child at home." Oh, okay. uh no, I don't think you want to make the case that what's going to happen this year, even if it's a lot better than the way we ended last year, I don't think you necessarily want to make the case that it's substantially adequate or equal to what the service you were providing was before, because that undermines the entire argument for physical schools and this connection that you say is so important, that we all agree is so important. So maybe lay off the instinct to intensely promote stuff like how great this is going to be. Might be good. Very much hope that it's improvement from the way it was in the springtime. Also, one other point on the contract, they did not outline much about individual education plans, special education. We asked them. My wife and I are obviously personally very passionate about this point. They said they will provide live instruction. But when I asked them what live was, they clarified, of course, it wasn't in person. So special education is still not in person. They are going to get training on how to do it better online, but they're refusing to even do in person, even for special education and other special needs students. So that was kind of a gut punch. You'd think with some of the things we're allowed to do in person in this world right now, maybe helping our kids who struggle the most or who are least well adapted to this remote learning. Maybe we could figure out a way to get them in person with distance, with masks, all that stuff. But no, that is not happening. Um, if you want to get some fire, ask my wife about that. Um, okay, so let's. Couple of other things that came out. There was a really interesting story in the Atlantic. Why can't we just have class outside? And they quoted San Diego Unified School District communications director Maureen McGee, and they had asked her if San Diego, of all places, which might be best suited for that kind of effort, whether that was something they were considering. And she said, no, there haven't been discussions about that. She later clarified after the story came out that individual schools may consider that when they reopen, but not as an alternative to what's happening now. And other places in the world that have opened have nowhere near the infections and virus spread that we have. Thus, we aren't able to consider this as an option and will not be considering it as an option. But I do recommend the piece. Why can't we have class outside? I think the outdoors offer San Diego schools, gyms, restaurants, a lot of opportunities to adapt to the threat that we have right now, to get out and maybe get some of these things done. If I had my way, if I was a god of the district, I would say, forget everything, all expectations that we've had over the last few years of academic success. Let's just focus on what we can do best for kids right now. Let's get outside. Let's take care of them, get their minds and bodies healthy. Maybe 4 hours of physical education, 4 hours of just, activities. Talk about a book that they read. Do the kinds of things we might do at a YMCA camp or something, or a junior lifeguards experience. And then for an hour, really review with them what they're going to do at home to be good. So maybe not a full day, but you can take care of a large group of people outside and really give them an enriching activity every day. Obviously, I'm not God of the school districts. Let's turn to some of your comments. How about special education, though? Yeah, talked about it. So it's not good. They're promising more live online services. I'm not sure how they'll compete with or accommodate different teachers' schedules that they'll set up, but they're planning on putting the kids in front of a screen for that. Um, I don't see how we can't consider doing so. No, I wish they would. I wish they would try. I mean, we're San Diego. We are San Diego. It seems like a kind of place that should be able to do that kind of work. All right. Are you a teacher? Are you a student? Are you a parent? Are you an administrator? What are your thoughts about how things should open? I did see a schedule, a draft schedule of what a day might look like in Carlsbad. It was also similarly set up. I guess they're trying to just recreate a day online. I think a lot of the online platforms that some of these charter schools and others use, they just basically are trying to get information into kids' heads and education into their heads, and they're not thinking on like necessarily a schedule. But what the districts are clearly trying to do is recreate the feel of a district education with what's happening online, and so that'll be interesting. And it has to be an improvement from what was happening when we all sort of fell into online education in March. So we'll see how that goes. A couple of other points. I received a survey today. Somebody sent, you can send me this stuff too, by the way. Send me everything that school districts send you about what they're going to do to open. Go to send it to Scott at voiceofsandiego.org. Scott at voiceofsandiego.org. Send me all of the communications you get from private schools, charter schools, sports clubs that are starting charter schools, YMCAs, Jewish community centers, boys and girls clubs. What are they sending you about what they're going to do? We've been tracking a lot of these not school options that are coming up. The Jewish Community Center yesterday announced all day at the J. So basically, they'll help you with the school, online school all day. It's basically a not school. We're seeing those pop up. Gymnastics, we talked about last episode. The gymnastics place, San Diego Gymnastics, they didn't want to come online and talk about their program to take care of kids and help them with school all day long. But these are all coming up. I got a survey somebody just sent me from the Boys and Girls Club, where it seems like, testing the waters of their community to see if they would start an all-day program to substitute for schools. So if you've got $200 per kid a month or a week, you can probably do something like this. But who has 200 extra bucks per week per kid? That's the big question, right? And what kind of equity disparities that opens up if that happens. So stay tuned. The one I'm watching for is the YMCA. If they get into a full day action, game on. Game on for this weird not school world that we're seeing. Uh, they are clearly the 600-pound gorilla in day camp, summer camp, after school stuff. Here's a good one. Adam, I'm a teacher in San Diego Unified. I know that distance learning is not ideal and we have to do better than spring. I'm most concerned about the youngest students. Yeah, no kidding. I have a friend lives across the street. His son's starting kindergarten, and he's asking me, how's that going to work? I don't even know how they can pretend that it is. This is the kind of thing that I think, like, go outside, run the kids around for 3 hours, another hour where you're trying to help them learn what they could do online, and then go home. Like, do something like that. Just wipe all other expectations out. But the idea that a kindergarten class is going to sit online like this for 4 hours or 3 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour, and get an enriching education, I mean, it's not happening. And so if you can't afford $200 a week, to send your kid to one of these things, you're not gonna nothing. Nothing's happening for that child. And we know that from kindergarten to grade 3 is that key point for where they need to learn how to read. If they don't learn how to read by that point, tremendous life consequences for the rest of their life. I'm very worried about equity. Yes, what happens to kids and families who can't afford those private school options? I don't know. I mean, that's the scariest part. Like, if we all decided as a community, like, we're taking this 2 years, we're just gonna do our best, we're gonna take care of kids, uh, you know, we could maybe start over later. I don't know, but that's not the kind of discussion. Kinders can't sit in front of, like, yeah, they can't. I mean, my 9-year-old, my 7-year-old can barely sit in front of the screen unless it's Minecraft, I guess. Maybe they should just teach in Minecraft. That'd be cool. Teach in Minecraft. Are you hearing any differentiation in grade level? No, not for the expectations right now. So the expectations were set very basic for the whole thing. Now that's the teachers union deal. Now, yes, the school district will now come back with their actual plan for how that will look, and I anticipate some vast differences between how that'll look for a high school kid versus how that'll look for a first grader. All right. All right, let's move on. I'm going to talk about some other things. Anything else on education, though? Anything else on schools? Is there anything you don't understand about how schools operate or the school board? School board meeting August 10th. If you have concerns about even these expectations or deals, let them know, man. They're listening. They are on the edge of their seats, worried about this problem. They know that you're upset. They know that you're worried, and they want to hear from you. That meeting, the San Diego Unified meeting, is August 10th. Get your comments in. If you're a teacher, you got a chance to weigh in on your contract right now on this deal. Uh, I'm a teacher in San Diego Unified, and I have a lot of concern with stamina, engagement, and equity. So what do we do? I mean, there are clearly kids that are going to get private support. They're going to get tutors. They're going to get pods of people to hang out with. They're going to get they might have a great time. And there are going to be kids who don't plug in at all, who get nothing, nothing. So, yes, we were already worried about that disparity, and now it's just being juiced. It's just being juiced. And I got to say, for the teachers out there, I made that joke on point earlier about some of this connection to like the physical schools, and making that point like, you can't pretend like this is the same. What did they say? Let's read this again. For students, the learning experience will feel similar in many ways to a traditional school year. I mean, that's just gaslighting. That's just pure like, oh, it's the same. It's this, it's like giving somebody mud and saying like, oh no, that's the pudding I've been giving you for a week. It's similar in many ways. Okay. Well, the part of the reason you don't wanna do that is because, like, we're now severing the connection. We are severing the connection between physical schools and education for thousands and thousands of kids and families. And if these pop-up things come up, if the Jewish Community Center, if the Y, if the Boys and Girls Club, if the gymnastics place, all these places put together these plans to serve as these not schools, well, they're going to build cost structures and they're going to hire teachers. By the way, I hope no teachers that sort of moonlight in this that are actually, involved in their real jobs. But if they hire all these people and they run these schools, are they gonna just go back in a year and a half? Are they just gonna close all those operations down, lower their cost structures, hand all those kids back to traditional public schools? I'm not sure they will. I'm not sure it'll be that clean. I'm not sure that you're not going to sever the connection to physical traditional schools for people for a long time. For a long time. Forever. I mean, I think like I look at our experience. My wife and I we donated tons of money to our school. We we volunteered. I carried picnic tables around. My wife, VP of the PTA. We invested everything we had into that school. We knew our son's IEP team, so well. We invested everything into that community, and that community was such a big part of us. The teachers, the principal, and it's just been eviscerated. It's just gone. And it doesn't feel like it had to just be eviscerated like that. And I'm really worried about if it can just be put back together once this is all over. Okay, that's end of rant on that. One place to begin: computers and free Wi-Fi for every kid. They are working on that, and frankly, I think they delivered devices to kids who needed and wanted them. You still had to go and get one, and I'm not sure that everyone who needed one went and got one, but they are prepared to do that, I think. Well, um, Kids at Heart is offering a free tutoring program. Uplift San Diego. That's good to hear. Um, uh, SEAA is fighting for flexibility. Okay. Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, I think that as long as they use the small groups, I mean, we have to be honest, like there were teachers, and I think the teachers union reps that were in that video talked about, there were instances where teachers just mailed it in at the end of last year. I mean, it's fine. I understand everybody was just freaked out. It was chaos. But we can't have that this time. Like this has got to be real. And I'm really worried about those initial free a few weeks. Are we going to launch well? Are people going to build bonds with their families, with their community, with their classes? That's going to be really hard. But I built bonds with you guys through this connection. Maybe we can do it well. All right. Any last questions on teachers, on education, on the deal? We're going to have a couple of great guests next week to talk about. I got a group from UC San Diego that's been advising Sweetwater Unified School District and others about some curriculum best practices, stuff like that. We're going to get into it. We're going to help as best we can. Again, we'll have hopefully a labor union rep soon. And I'm also going to talk to a scientist at UC San Diego who's been advising the school district about when they can open. And she's the one, Kim Prather, who came up with a lot of worried sort of clarity about the aerosols and the droplets and how they spread the disease. So she's very good on ventilation and what we need to protect ourselves. So stay tuned for all of that next week. All right, let's get into a different issue. And that is this building behind me, 101 Ash Street. Again, let me give you a little picture. So it's that building right there. You might remember it as the old Sempra. Oh, sorry. You might remember it as the old Sempra headquarters. It's right over there. It is okay. So the city of San Diego has a bunch of employees at City Hall. City Hall. See that awful parking lot right there? That's City Hall's awful parking lot. So City Hall's right over there. There's a bunch of employees that obviously work at City Hall, but not all of them. There's a lot of employees of the city of San Diego that have worked in different office buildings across downtown and across the city. And so the city has long said, like, we should stop paying rent to landlords for them and bring them in. They came up with an idea to build a new city hall. That fell flat. And so a few years ago, Sempra had left this building across the street and they said, let's buy that building and we'll move our employees into that. And so they didn't. It didn't happen. They agreed to buy the building. They're paying rent on it for like 20 years and then they'll get control of the building. But when they bought the building, they found out that they had said like, oh, it's only going to need a power wash. But then what we found out this week, there was a forensic report released. The city had hired an auditing firm, a group to investigate what happened with this deal, because it's been several years, 3 years, and nobody's working out of that deal yet, out of that building. And they basically found out that the head of real estate assets, Sibel Thompson, and the division and the people in charge of this effort never inspected the building, never had the building inspected. And had they done that, they might have found out that the ventilation, the HVAC, the plumbing, the electrical, the lighting, the ceilings, they were all in need of major repair. In fact, had they just done a Google search, they may have found Sempra itself testifying to the Public Utilities Commission that part of the reason that they left that building was because the property needed $3 million in repair to keep it operational and $15 million to protect it from earthquakes, and then up to $25 million to remove existing asbestos and rebuild impacted space. Sempra, 3 years before the city purchased this building, had told a public entity, the California Public Utilities Commission, that they moved out of the building because it needed like $40 million of work. So the city tells the city council, no, we can buy it. We're just going to power wash it. We can move people in right away. It's fine. It's fine. They buy the building, and then they go in and they're like, well, let's hire an architectural firm to tell us how we can fit people into it. They hire the architecture firm. The architecture firm comes back and says, you got to do a full remodel of like 19 floors. Just a full remodel. And so they come up and they say, all right, well, we're going to need to do a remodel. They ask the city council gives them $30 million. Though that price skyrocketed, that remodel disturbs asbestos. They move city employees in, and then the county's air pollution control district comes in and says, there's asbestos. You can't move in. You got to move everybody out. They evacuate everybody. Complete disaster. Complete civic nightmare for Mayor Kevin Faulconer and his staff. One of his chief deputies, Ron Villa, left because of this. Still others haven't. So what happened this week? Why is it coming up this week? Well, this is the week we got that report that helped illuminate those things I just mentioned. We knew some of that from reporting ABC or NBC 7 San Diego. Our friends Dorian Hargrove, Tom Jones have been doing great work investigating that effort. Found some of these reports before, found that stuff about some of these testimonies that happened before that. But they they bought this building. They later find out that it doesn't need just a power wash, needs a remodel. So this became a huge sort of political issue because Barbara Bree, who's running for mayor, started hammering Todd Gloria, who was on the city council that bought this, and said, you shouldn't have bought it. You should have done your inspection, should have taken care of your city responsibilities and oversight a lot better. And you did not. Todd Gloria, though, comes back and says, well, Barbara Bree, you're the one who also approved this remodel. And the remodel's what's caused a lot of problems, caused $30-40 million in costs. So it's a nasty political fight with that, but it all lays at the feet of Mayor Kevin Faulconer. So that's what's happening this week with that building right over there and City Hall, which is back there. And that's what we've been following. Now, there's a side thing that happened this week. It's just great. It's just, this is today, actually. This is just today. This is really good. So the San Diego City Attorney and the San Diego City government, they've been hiring other firms to investigate what's happening. And one of those firms sent a report already. And one of those reports landed at our friends Dorian Hargrove, Tom Jones, NBC 7 San Diego, landed at their door. They got it. They published it. They called the San Diego City Attorney, asked for comment. The San Diego City Attorney, Mara Elliott, her deputy, I think his name's John Hemmerling, sends a letter back to Dorian Hargrove, says, I understand you asked for comment about this report that you got. Well, maybe you should go to jail instead. He says, under the Brown Act, it's confidential. Additionally, the unauthorized release of this document is a criminal violation and a potential violation of state and federal Electronic Communications Act. I have opened a criminal investigation into these matters, and I'd appreciate your assistance and cooperation. I request that you return the documents. If you delay or refuse to comply, I ask that you preserve the documents and refrain from destroying them. And basically, you're in trouble, bud. You are in trouble, bud. This is the third time we have heard of San Diego City Attorney Mara Elliott opening a criminal investigation into one of these leaks. A few years ago, you might remember she went after Councilman Chris Cate, who himself admitted that he gave documents that were shared in confidence in one of these private closed sessions that he gave them to Soccer City. Remember the guys that wanted to build the stadium in Mission Valley? He said, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was doing something wrong. I wanted to get their feedback on it." She referred him for criminal prosecution. The DA said, I, I don't really want to do that. She punted it to the AG, the Attorney General of the state of California, Javier Becerra, and he looks at it and says, "This is dumb. I'm done with this." Now, we are people who are journalists who get information like this, expose things that are questionable, especially something like this nasty botched deal with this building. We want to find out what happened and the people who were responsible for it. We like to publish this stuff. Send us your stuff. So you can't. They sent this journalist at NBC this document. He gets it out to the public, or plans to, and they threaten him with criminal prosecution, criminal act, subpoenas. Now, California has a shield law for journalists and for their sources that if you know, are putting something out like this, you can basically be protected from subpoena having to testify about who gave it to you. But Mr. Hemmerling didn't get that memo about that law. So that's the third time that we have heard of San Diego City Attorney criminally going after people for releasing documents they feel like are important for the public to see. So that's something we're in the business of doing. We want to hear from people who feel like something's wrong and need to get information out. Obviously, I understand there's laws about confidential closed sessions. That's your problem. Don't come after journalists uh, with criminal threats. So we all blow up on the Twitter about that, and then San Diego City Attorney Mara Elliott releases a statement saying, quote, "The letter my office sent earlier to an NBC reporter never should have been sent. My office has never and will never prosecute a journalist or compel them to reveal confidential sources. This was a standard form letter." It wasn't a standard form letter. It was very clearly customized for the person involved. "I've retracted the letter. I've personally called the reporter to assure him he is not under investigation, nor will he ever be. My office has a duty to investigate potential violations of ethics laws, including the unauthorized disclosure of city documents by city officials that compromises our ability to hold contractors accountable for wrongdoing." So basically, the city is in legal battles with people who are working on that building, and she says, you know, sharing these documents makes it harder for us to hold them accountable or keep our money from going to them. But under my watch, that investigation will never involve the press or undermine reporters' abilities to report the news. So this is like a classic like Trump moment, like where he complains about something that somebody who works for him did. Like, "Oh, these CDC guidelines are garbage." They work for you. They're yours. This is your boss. I mean, not boss, this is your subordinate. This person works for you. Your name is on the letter. If you look at this letter, it says, "Dear," this is to the NBC reporter, Mari Elliott. Now it says by the guy who actually sent it, John Hammerly. But he has authorization to speak for her. And she says, it should never have been sent. All right. So what's going to happen? What's the discipline for Mr. Hemmerling for sending this letter? Nothing? Just me ranting about it? Is that the pain he's going to get? All right. Don't send letters like that. Don't send us letters like that. Maybe worry about the botched building. Maybe worry about the $30-40 million you wasted on that project. Maybe focus on that. Maybe not on the journalist that you're going to threaten like that. Get out of here, you bully. Come at me. Send me a letter like that. Come on. Real tough behind the camera like this. No, but seriously, come on. Get out of here. If this is the only discipline he faces, then come at me. No, like, you better see some more. You look like an unsuccessful cult leader. Fair enough. Uh, this is a page right out of Jan Goldsmith's playbook. John Hemmerling did this clearly at the behest of Mara Elliott and Jerry Braun. Okay. They should knock down that building. Probably an argument. Like, I mean, how much more do they have to spend to get it up? Like, if the city ended up owning that land, it's very valuable downtown land. They've been wanting a city hall. Maybe they can turn it all into a big city hall complex. All right, I'm getting the note that I should stop talking. And I'm getting crazy. One note to watch, we're waiting for um, fundraising totals to come. We were all wondering how politicians would be able to raise money during this pandemic, and we are getting all those numbers today. Tonight, they're supposed to get them in by midnight, and so we are excited to see how well each candidate did in raising money and what they might have dealt with as they did. So stay tuned for that. Next week, Wednesday, we'll be back 5 p.m. We're going to be talking, I think, with the scientist from UC San Diego who can help us from Scripps Oceanography, who can help us understand how the virus spreads in the air and why she is not comfortable with schools opening yet, but what she's telling the school districts. And then on Friday, hopefully, we'll have a good conversation about some of these ways to deliver information. Yes, I'm heavily focused on schools right now because I'm freaked out about them. All right, a couple other notes. On August 12th at 5 p.m., we're going to do a big town hall about schools issues and about some of these equity issues. That's going to be a big one. Big for our members and for we're going to test some of the software for our big event, which is September 29th through October 3rd, a series of debates about everything from Escondido politics to San Diego, the future of the mayor's office, and ballot measures, ballot measures, ballot measures. We're going to explain all of them all that week. Tickets will go on sale August 10th. So stay tuned for that. Thanks to Megan Wood, who helped me produce this, and to all the people at Voice San Diego who do the investigative work that informs so many people in San Diego. If you are supportive, please consider visiting Voice of San Diego and donating at voiceofsandiego.org. Thanks all for your time and have a good weekend. Wear a mask if you're going to be around people and stay outside, probably. All right. Cheers.